so good.
If you're wondering what it's like to fly to the United States or fly to Canada right now, let me help you with this. Because tonight I am leaving Ecuador, at least for a month. I am flying to Canada with a stop over in the United States. And things have gotten a little bit tricky. So first, I need to have a negative test to land in the United States that was taken within the previous 24 hours. And then I need to land in Canada with a negative PCR test from the last 3 days. Fortunately, fingers crossed, I think I've done everything I need to do. But I'm gonna take you along with me so I can share with you what it's like to fly to the United States and Canada right now. Leaving Quito, I'm flying to Canada from the US. Now this is a little bit different today because flying to the United States, as of today, you need to have a negative rapid antigen test within the last 24 hours. And in Canada, you need to have a negative PCR test within the last 72 hours. Now, today is a Sunday, however, with Casa Gangatena, I was able to arrange someone to come to my hotel room for $55 and give me a negative PCR test with same-day results. So I'm all set to fly, but still I wonder, what will it be like flying to the United States and then flying to Canada from the US? Okay, so I followed the rules. My email said I needed to arrive here 4 hours before my flight. Got here, noticed that section C, where Delta is supposed to be, wasn't there. We asked the security guard, and he said they won't be there until 3 hours before. I mean, I had nothing else to do tonight, but I didn't think I'd be waiting around for an hour. It's now 3 hours before. And I still don't see Delta.
Oh, that's the Delta.
Oh wait, oh wait, oh wait, there they are. All right. So it was actually quite easy. I gave vaccine card, also showed them a screenshot of my test. They put these stickers on my passport, and now I am ready to check in. Alright, so that was very easy coming in to Delta. I have to say, second time I've flown with them this year, really good. I just needed to show my vaccination card, my negative test, my passport, and then confirm that I had filled out a CDC attestation. Then to check in, very easy. To go through migration was also very easy. So I arrived here 3 hours early. But I would say it maybe only took me half an hour. Holy crap, what's this? Atlanta? Oh, thank God, that is not my gate. All right, lots of places to eat. Mexican. This is actually really pretty. I feel like if I lived in Vilcabamba, I would have this. What are the chances I don't have anyone sitting next to me? Amazing. So that was a great flight. Almost everybody there was actually able to sleep across 3 seats because, I don't know, it was like 10% full, which was really wonderful because it was just under 5 hours, and so at least you were able to get like a few hours sleep. Arrived here, felt really good about it. This is my first time with the KN95 mask, which I really like because it has this metal up top, which makes it feel secure on the nose, and then there's actually room here, so if you want to sleep on a plane, you don't feel like you're sucking in your mask. It was actually very, very easy. And then on the plane, I felt quite comfortable. I was surprised. And that's because today is the first day that the US has mandated that you have to have a negative test within the previous 24 hours. And so because our flight was at 12:40 a.m., that meant everyone that day needed to get tested and same day results. So I at least felt like that minimized my risk quite a bit. Now in the Atlanta airport, and I went through global entry. It took me 60 seconds. Nobody asked me anything when I arrived. And I think that's because the airport takes care of all of that when you actually check into the airport. So that's why it's important to get there 3 hours early, because it does take a while for them to go through your vaccine record, your negative test, your passport, and then also you need to do a CDC attestation online, which basically I think says that all of the documents that you're providing to get on the flight are true. It was very easy to do online. That's actually why I don't remember what it said, but it was pretty straightforward. Anyway, so arrived in Atlanta. Gotta be honest, got here at 5:30 a.m. Security was not the friendliest. I travel for a living, and I know that in the United States, you usually have to take your shoes off. You always have to take your laptop out. Other countries like Ecuador, I'll ask if I have to take my laptop out. Here, going through security, they actually got mad at us for taking our laptop out. And it's like, come on, this is new here. So can't you just be like, hey, let's celebrate. No more taking our laptops out. But instead, we were kind of berated and told to put our laptops back in our bag. Not a good way to start the day, but I guess 5:30 is early for some people, and maybe they don't really like the job. Anyway, my flight to Toronto is early. Got that notification on the Delta app. I'm loving flying with Delta so far. Flying to Ecuador with Delta was fantastic, and I gotta say, flying back so far has been good. Fingers crossed that continues. And then from Toronto, I'm actually switching airlines and going Air Canada. It's still very early, nothing is open, but I think I might just walk around and check out the airport. There's a big long line here, which I am gonna guess is for McDonald's. Or maybe it's just for a coffee shop here, because it is 5:30 a.m. Oh, sorry, it's 6 a.m. Yeah, it looks like there's a big long line for coffee. Well, that's interesting. I don't need any of that though. It's like 2.5 hours here, and I think breakfast would be nice. I am the first person in lounge, so I'm in Club ATL. I was here when I flew here. They have this nice little corner here that nobody seems to ever want to sit in, or they didn't last time. And it gives you a little bit of space from everyone. Okay, so for breakfast I've got scrambled eggs, oatmeal parfait. This looks like a full flight. That was a very easy flight. No one asked me about my negative test, but I think that's because I initially gave it in Quito. Now I'm back in Canada. This will be interesting. So in advance, I needed to fill out information in the ArriveCAN app, including uploading my vaccination. It doesn't have my negative test, so I'm expecting that I show the app, and then I'll have to also show the negative test. We'll see. It took me less than a minute to get through security. I did have Nexus card, so I cut the line, which really helped. And then when I got to speaking to one of the Nexus officers, she actually has to see my passport, which they've never done before. And And I think that's because they're checking the back of the passports. Because in Quito, they gave me a stamp to say I had been vaccinated and a stamp to say that I had a PCR test in the last 24 hours. So I think that's actually what they're doing. And then when I exited just all of security, someone stopped me again to ask me to see my passport. And I think, again, that's just to check on the stamps. So I have finished my leg with Delta. I am now going from Toronto to Halifax, which means I'm going with Air Canada. And I should have to show my vaccination card there because in Canada, you cannot fly, you cannot take a ship, you cannot take a train if you're not vaccinated. But that's fine, because I've got my card with me. So let's go see what that process is like. Oh my God, there's such a big crowd there. Oh, yeah, it did work. They give you a QR code that doesn't work, but the barcode does. Nexus, you totally skipped that long line. Nexus, if you don't have it, get it now. So this is the priority line for Nexus. Still long, but definitely not as long as that other line. All right, so I made it to Toronto. I am in Canada. Interesting process to get my flight to Halifax. So from the time it took to leave my flight, go through security on the international side in Terminal 3, and then get through security for national flights here in Terminal 1, it took 34 minutes. And that is amazing. That's changing terminals, taking the train to change terminals. And I think the reason that happened is because I have Nexus, also called Global Entry in the United States. I skipped all of the lines. So here in Canada, if you want to take a plane, a train, ship, you have to be vaccinated. Number one, if you can get Nexus Global Entry, definitely apply for it now. I don't know if it's open. It should be open, but it just saved so much hassle. Number two, if you don't, you gotta really come here like 3 hours early. I think that vaccination line was probably an hour long. And you know what? This is something new. They're trying their best to expedite it, but the reality is we're just gonna have to start showing up at the airport much earlier. My vaccination card, my mother laminated it. It's the size of a credit card. It's awesome because it just fits in my wallet. And then the negative PCR test I just had on my phone. So those two things were really easy. Anytime anyone asked me for it, I could whip it out. But definitely makes a huge difference. So it's like, I think it costs $175 or $75. I don't know how much it costs. You pay for it, it's worth it. That said, now I'm heading to Halifax. I think it'll be a 2 or 3 hour flight. And then when I arrive, they are randomly testing some people now. I wasn't tested even though I came from Ecuador, and I think that's because of the new US rule that you have to be tested 1 day before. So it doesn't make sense to test me again because I literally was tested yesterday morning. Right now I am going to eat some airport sushi, which I know people are thinking so disgusting, but it's like this dirty, guilty pleasure that I have is to eat sushi at horrible places. The worst place I've ever eaten sushi was I bought it from a Walmart in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Don't tell anybody about that. It's embarrassing. So bad, so good. Okay, so it looks like when you arrive in Halifax, they ask you if you have an Arrive can, which I do have because I came into Toronto. And if you don't do that, they have this self-check-in that you need to do. And I just asked, and she said that they would give us some self-tests. I don't know what you call it when you do the COVID test yourself. Anyway, I'm getting one, so that's great. Or more. if we count when I first started traveling, I went to the airport at 9 p.m. in Quito, and it's now 5 p.m. here. So I have been traveling for 19 or 20 hours, and I've had about 2 hours sleep. But it was such an easy travel, it hasn't really bothered me much at all. Here, I'm going to show my ArriveCan pass. I think I'm gonna pick up some self-COVID tests, and they might test me because I have come in from another country. Although I don't think it really makes sense because I had my PCR test yesterday morning. So if I got it in that time span, it's not gonna show. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So far, everything has been very smooth. If I have to get a test, no big deal. Alright, so this was interesting. They gave me these 2 tests. I have to take one today and one in 3 days. I don't know how it works, to be honest. However, I'm fully vaccinated, so this is the option. If you're not fully vaccinated, they do recommend getting a PCR test, but I guess I'll try it tonight and then in 3 days. This is good.